Hello my dear sewing friends, it's Alisa here. I'm really happy to see you and I hope that all of you had a wonderful week, and welcome back to the sewing room organization / spring cleaning series. Now this is episode number 4, but as you know, I took you with me throughout this entire process. So in episode number 1, we did a lot of decluttering. So if you need a little bit of help with that, a little bit of encouragement, that little push, that episode is definitely for you. Then in episode number 2, we organized all the supplies and patterns, fabric and whatnot, and I also took you along with me. Episode number 3 was dedicated to dealing with unfinished projects, and today in episode number 4, I just want to talk to you. I just want to chat with you a little bit deeper on this topic, answer some of the questions and comments that I saw underneath this video series and some of the criticisms as well, and sort of just dive a little bit deeper and let you in on my thought process. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Now, one of the things that I really wanted to mention sort of right away, because it really caught my attention and because it's something that I really resonate with, is that it turns out that a lot of you are actually in a process of moving. So congratulations. Usually it's an exciting time of your life. It can be pretty problematic as well, but I hope that if you are moving, everything goes with ease. And a lot of you also mentioned that you didn't really realize the amount of sewing supplies that you had until it was time to box everything up in order to move. And I can tell you that I've been in your shoes. I've been in that exact same boat all those years back when we moved from Las Vegas all the way to where we live right now. And I think that particular experience is probably what sort of jump-started this thing that I do every single year about sort of, going through the supplies that I have and really reevaluating the amount that I need. And I can tell you that back then, I was, of course, earlier in my sewing journey at a different level, and I probably had, I would say, even twice the amount of supplies that I have right now. And when I saw all of those boxes stacked up from our little apartment, and the amount of sewing boxes was probably twice as much as the amount of bathroom, kitchen, and bedroom combined, I was like, whoa, okay, maybe I'm not only in the hobby of sewing, but also in the hobby of just accumulating and shopping for sewing supplies. And sometimes the sewing supplies that I don't even really have a particular use for. And the funny thing is that if you watched the first episode and the second episode, which was decluttering and organizing, you probably saw that a lot of the fabric that I did pass on to other people to use was actually the fabric that we brought from Las Vegas. And those were definitely not the first cuts of fabrics that I've given away. And it just shows you that throughout the years, your preference changes, your ideas change, your sewing style also can change, your lifestyle can change, and your understanding of the craft changes as well. So that's just very interesting, and I can tell you that it definitely takes time. As you saw, I was holding on to fabric that I bought all those years back, and year after year, I'm like, oh, maybe I make something with it. But if it just isn't right for you, then it isn't right for you. But I just wanted to share with you that I really resonated with that, and I definitely understand. And that was sort of that moment that kind of opened up my eyes on, oh, okay, maybe it's just time to sort of pause and think about it. I also wanted to let you know why I decided to do this series, because I've done this process every single year since we moved, but this is actually the very first time that I've filmed it and put it on YouTube. And I did fabric sort through about 4 years ago. It was an actual video on my channel. I don't know if it's still up or not, but when it comes to the full process, this is the first time. And I did see a couple of comments saying, great, I love your sewing videos, but I have absolutely no interest in this type of content, which I totally understand. I can see your point. I understand. But from my perspective, it just feels like everything, and not only sewing, but just everything has become very transactional, just very commercial. And don't get me wrong, I know I'm part of the system. I'm here on YouTube, and yes, from time to time, I will suggest a product that I like, but I only do that for the things that I actually believe in. But it just feels like we have stepped away 2, 3, maybe even 4 very big steps from the true meaning of why we sew, from the true sort of that enthusiasm that brought us to sewing. And everything right now just feels like a race for bigger, more, new, shinier. And I like new stuff too. Of course I do. I think we all do as people. but at the same time, it feels like everything is just very, very on the surface. And I felt that if I show you a little bit more of where I work and how I work and how I go about the fabric and the supplies that I have or supplies that I don't have, that it would give you a little bit more of a sort of context to understand why I do certain things in sewing and what are the tutorials that I work on and why I do this and why I do that. And maybe it wouldn't be as transactional as everything else. I don't know. I just felt that if I invite you sort of to come along a little bit further than just what this camera captures, and you can see you know, where I work, that it really isn't anything fancy. It's not ugly, but it's not pretty either. It's just very simple, you know. I thought that maybe it would give you some better understanding that not everything is picture perfect and not everything has to be picture perfect. It just has to be good for you. You have to thrive in the environment that you're in. And if you're not, let's go ahead and work on it. But if you are, that's awesome. And I sort of wanted to give you a little bit of a deeper look in my sewing, not just the videos and tutorials that you see on the channel, but just sort of that mundane day-to-day of what everybody deals with, but what you don't usually see on social media. Whew. All right, now let's talk about some of the suggestions that I've read from you. One of the suggestions was repeated a couple of times, and I think that some of you might benefit from it, and I'll explain why the suggestion didn't really work for me, and I did try it years and years ago. And that was particularly about how I store my fabrics, not necessarily that I store them in the plastic tubs, but that instead of storing them horizontally like I do right now, to fold them and store them vertically, just like Marie Kondo does in her KonMari method. And years ago, I did go through all of our belongings and I did the KonMari method. And out of all of the drawers, which we don't actually have a lot, we have maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 drawers in the entire house, I did organize them like this vertically. And out of all of those drawers, the only drawer that stuck was the drawer with bath towels. That is where we really do stack them like this vertically, and that really helps. Everything else that I tried, including my own t-shirts and pants, fabric, didn't stick. I don't know why it didn't stick, and it's just easier for me to stack them like this, especially when there's a lot of workload and I just need to go through the fabric to find that one particular color or print or whatever that I'm really looking for. That is not to say that it couldn't work for you. So if you've been frustrated with the way that your fabrics are stacked in your plastic bins or maybe totes or boxes, try it. It might really be a solution. Some people say that you can actually fit more using this method. And for me, that's also not the goal, because I don't want to stuff more in the totes that I have. I actually want to make sure that I use up the fabric that I have and that the remaining fabric moves freely inside of the totes, so that way I don't have to sort of like restack them every time that I go through them. So I just kind of wanted to touch up on that. And again, we're all different. What works for me doesn't necessarily work for you, but it is important to find that sort of golden middle of what is the system that is the most appropriate for the way that you are, your brain works, your creative process works, and everything else. I wanted to say thank you because a lot of you did suggest some really great labels that I could use on those fabric cubes in the cube shelf. I haven't gotten them just yet, so I'm just really making it do with what I have, but I definitely have them sort of like in my mental notes. So I just really wanted to say thank you for some great suggestions. There was one comment that felt very critical. The essence of it was that, well, Alisa, you're always trying to be resourceful and you show that you're resourceful, but now you're just giving away fabric that you don't like. Well, why don't you be resourceful and actually do something with it, like dye it into another color and use it for one-time use only carnival costumes and other special occasion costumes for your daughter? And I totally can see how this could work. The thing with me is I don't really do single-use only sewing projects. That breaks my heart. That really just rubs me the wrong way personally. If somebody else does it, I can understand and I can see their point of view. I always try to look from the other side because there's so many of us, right? But personally, in my personal opinion, it just hurts my heart. It breaks my soul. It really just, because I live and breathe sewing. This is one of the callings that I have in my life. I truly feel that way about it. And if I make something that is only going to get one use out of it, like a Halloween costume. And granted, it is a little bit different when you're making a wedding dress, right? It's just a little bit of a different situation. But when I actually do something for a special occasion, I try to make sure that whatever I make can actually be either deconstructed or used as a standalone garment that I can use then time and time again, not just for that one time. And last year was actually the first time that I did a Halloween costume together with my daughter. We did make it from fabric scraps. It was Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas. And we did it together. She helped with sewing and decorations and everything. It was a great project. It was just, we're still talking about it, and she still loves to wear her dress from time to time at home. So it's definitely something that is going to make a great memory, and we had a great time doing that. And this year we're thinking about doing Ghost Spider from Spidey and His Amazing Friends, and I can definitely make it wearable from, for a day-to-day garment. So I don't usually do single-use sewing projects only. And as I mentioned, polyester doesn't really work in this climate that we live in. I'm not against all polyesters. I love using double brush polyester for leggings because it has a very long lifespan. It really does. My daughter has worn some of the leggings that I made for her for 2 years, and in the knees it has barely shown any wear and tear, and these leggings can be passed on for sure. So I'm not against all of it, but there is a point at which it makes no sense to torture that fabric. And it makes more sense to give that fabric to somebody else who likes sewing with polyester, would make more use out of it, not just a single-use costume or single-use garment, and would be overall happier, and that tool, or fabric in this case, would actually serve for a lot longer than what it would in my situation. And as you saw in episode number 3, I did dye some of the fabrics a different color, and those were fabrics that I was happy with the fiber content, like linen and cotton. I just wasn't happy with the colors, and I decided, you know what, let's just make it work and let's see if it turns out the way I wanted to. And some did and some didn't, but like 50% of them did. So I was really happy about that. So I just kind of feel that a lot of times we'll look at things just from one perspective, like, well, you're resourceful, so you have to make everything work. Though that's great, but at what point it becomes more detrimental than resourceful? Because if somebody else can make more use out of it than you will, then why just not give it to them? I don't know, everybody is different, but that's my personal thought process that I have when it comes to these kind of situations. You see, topics like these definitely have a lot more nuance to them, a lot more depth to them, and just like I mentioned before, to me it feels like a lot of everything that we see on social media nowadays is very much a surface level conversation. No matter what is the topic, I feel that a lot of it is just very much a surface level. And sometimes we need a deeper conversation. Sometimes we need more than just bullet points. Sometimes we need to talk a little bit more than just succinct points of step-by-step instructions of how to do this or that. So I know this video is different, and if you did stay till the end, thank you so much. I truly hope that this gave you a little bit of a deeper insight into why I decided to do the series and the thought process behind the things that I do. And truly, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm really happy that you are here, and I really hope that we have more fun, exciting, interesting, and thoughtful sewing ideas and sewing things and sewing projects ahead of us. So cheers to that, and I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye.